Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Good morning, Vietnam!
You are great.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious...
You're listening to the 30-something Movie Podcast. Classic movies, 30 years in the making. You are listening to the 30-something Movie Podcast. I am your host, John Reed, and I'm here with the illustrious, what words? What words can I... The indescribable.
The indescribable.
The svelte. Patrick Canagallo.
That's great. Yeah. Pat's voice is somewhat back too.
You're kind of back, yeah.
Limited return.
Yeah, that's all right. You got kind of like it's almost like a Logan voice now. It's just gravelly and just.
See, now you're just trying to,
I'm trying to butter you up.
Butter.
Yeah.
Butter me up.
Sure.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Do
you like butter?
Well, I don't like the food and the thing mix. But whatever.
All right. Would you ever eat just a stick of butter?
No,
okay.
No.
I don't know. I've heard people do that, and
not on. Like I've heard kids. I've never heard of adults like doing that on purpose.
Yeah.
But I've heard of like kids eating butter and parents catching them going, "No, what? No."
Yeah, it's just disgusting.
Yeah, it's not my deal.
I'm really glad none of my kids ever did that.
That's not my bag, baby.
All right. Well, this is. I mentioned this right before we started recording. This is a very special episode.
It is.
We're not going to do anything special for it, but it's the 175th episode.
I dare say, jawohl, Herr Oberst.
Or if we're
That was from
the Deutsch.
Yeah, it was from The Great Escape. I don't even know what the heck it means, but Steve McQueen looked really cool saying it.
I looked this up because I knew that when we did our 150th, I knew the word for that one. It was sesquicentennial. I had to look this one up.
What is it?
It's the Dodrans Bicentennial.
The Dodrans
Bicentennial. Apparently what the Dodrans part means is less the quarter of a whole. So it's like a bicentennial, but less a quarter of a centennial. So it's like saying 200 minus 25.
Yeah. I'm just going to say that...
Dodrans Bicentennial.
I just find that very artistic yet inaccurate or ineffective way of numbers, where it's like, it's this much minus this much.
Right.
But I guess it's
407 years ago.
Yeah. I'm a little bit more of the...
Dodrans Bicentennial, which I think was one of the names of the angels in this movie. Dodrans Bicentennial.
I think it could easily be that way.
Something close to that.
I think, yes.
So this is episode number 175. It's going to be a short one because we were going to do two movies, and then the other movie backfired by the copy we had was missing the last hour.
It was.
So, yeah.
Right.
Okay, so...
Which, when we do
it was just the unbearable likeness of... And that's it.
You're going to have to share the story of John Ezra seeing you... That was a wonderful story. And
I'll tell it now.
Do you want to tell it now? I don't want to cut into
when the people are... It's a little preview for that one.
Yes.
So I'm testing it out. So I have, I have an electronic copy of the movie, and I'm testing it out to make sure that my copies still work. And so I go in and I test it out by taking the file and I jump to a random spot in the movie and I hit play for a second just to make sure that it's still working just fine. And so I do that with Wings of Desire, and everything's totally fine. And then I go to do that with The Unbearable Lightness of Being, which was the other movie we were going to watch this time. And my son, 10 years old, he walks up and he's standing right next to me while I'm doing this on my laptop. And I had not watched the movie yet, so I didn't necessarily know what part I was picking. So I go to a random spot in the movie and I hit play, and all of a sudden there is a woman with, I believe that she has a towel on her head and nothing else. And you can see her from the midriff up. And thankfully, the controls, like the play, the fast forward, the other stuff for the media player that I was on, they were covering up the chestal area.
Yes.
And but my son spotted it, and he's like, "Whoa! Is is that the movie you guys are watching for your podcast? And I said, yeah, apparently so. And he starts giggling. He's like, oh, man, aren't those guys going to be freaked out when they realize they have to watch that? and I'm sitting there going,
Oh, man.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
freaked out's the right word, buddy. Why don't you go on upstairs? I'll come up and read to you here in just a minute before I tuck you in. He's like, and he's just giggling the whole time. He's like, won't they think it's funny when they realize they have to watch that? It's like,
Man.
yeah, it's
I am just
it's gonna be a gas.
I'm just gonna say that in your son is how many years?
10.
10, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you told that at the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
That is a part of parenthood that I'm already seeing why parents love grandkids is
Mm-hmm.
because that innocence and that age where the reaction of things, it's just golden.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that is awesome. And I could, it's just like those reactions. That's just outstanding. What a wonderful story.
Well, it was like when my daughter was little. She at one point, maybe it was my son. Yeah, no, it was my son when he was little, and he was like, it was the first time he was riding the bus to go to school, kindergarten, and I remember him coming home. He's like, yeah, Dad, somebody on the bus said the S word, and I was like, oh, yeah, they did. What S word? He's like, yeah, somebody called somebody else stupid. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's really not nice, is it? No, it's not nice. That, but they said that, and I knew it wasn't right. So I just wanted to let you know that somebody said that on the bus. So, so then fast forward a few years, and now my daughter is in kindergarten, and she goes, yeah, somebody said the F word at school, and I'm thinking like, oh, what, fat or something like that. And I said, oh yeah, what F word? And she says the actual F word, and I go, geez. Oh, yeah, that's a really bad word. That's but you understand that even if you hear that, it's not something in our family. We don't say that. We don't talk that way, and we know that there's better words we can use. And yeah, I just figured I should let you know. And I'm like, wow, that's a huge difference between the S word meaning stupid a few years ago. And,
yeah.
No, I know the mother of all.
Yeah, here it is. Here it is.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Parenthood.
My sister used to, when she was probably in between, right around our kids' age-ish right now, because I was the older brother and remember this. It used to be the Effenheimer, is what she would say. Okay. I forget where that came from, but someone would say that, it was like, the short word for it was the F word or the F-bomb or the Effenheimer. Yeah. And I forget, but she had it messed up and she was maybe only like 7 or 8 years. And she's like, yeah, can you believe that someone at school said that she said the Effenheimer, but said the actual word Enheimer? Oh, and then we all started laughing and we could all laugh. She's like, what? I didn't say it. Well, no, and we had to explain to her, well, no, you did, because you say the first Oh, that stuff just gets so funny. All right.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
Great story, though. That's an awesome story.
And Effenheimer sounds German, which gets into our movie this time around, Wings of Desire. So, all right, so our movie, so this is episode number 175, and our movie this time is Wings of Desire, so we are going to spoil the movie, and I think we're going to talk about maybe one or two other related movies to this and might spoil them as well. So if you have not seen Wings of Desire, and I'll even say this, if you have not seen the movie City of Angels with Nicolas Cage and Meg Ryan, I might spoil a bit of that one too, because that's a remake of Wings of Desire. It's an American, romantic fantasy. It's more of like a love story movie than this one was, and a little bit more of a. Can we in 2018? Can we still call it a chick flick?
I think
is that still allowed? I'm going to call it that. Yeah. I mean, I don't mean that to be degrading to anybody in any way, but it's a chick flick.
It's category.
It's category. So I will spoil that one because I'm going to talk, because I've seen that movie and I like that movie, and I'll talk about how they're different. But so if you haven't seen Wings of Desire or City of Angels, just be aware that we'll probably spoil those. And go leave us a review on iTunes. If you're listening, if you like what you're hearing, leave us a review and let us know what you like or let us know what you're not liking. And we're adaptable.
We are adaptable.
We're adaptable guys. So
nothing if we're not adaptable.
Yeah. So very, very quickly, I know that we were going to try to keep this to kind of a short episode today, but I got 3 very, very fast new movie news things, and we don't even necessarily need to talk a lot about them, but we'll just throw them out there.
Lightning round.
Lightning round. Boom. Go. Episode 9 script is done. So Yay.
Good.
The only thing that I've heard about it so far is that J.J. Abrams has said that this movie, that episode 9, since it's the end, I think they're saying it's officially the end of the Skywalker story, that this movie will have callbacks to and tie up everything from episode 1 on through to episode 9. So there will be callbacks to the prequels, and it will take, like, supposedly this story is going to tie together the prequels, the original trilogy, and the sequel trilogy. So I'm kind of excited to see, you know, how they choose to do that, and that they finally reveal to everybody who Snoke is.
That would be outstanding.
I don't know if he's dead.
I don't know either.
Yeah. I had a group of kids the other day. They were, who was it I was working with? It was, it was my game club kids here at school, and they were arguing about that. They're like, Snoke is this and Snoke is that. And none of them actually talk that way, but, and I said, I pulled it up on my phone, and I said, guys, I know who Snoke is. You know, the clothes, like the gold color, and the fact that he got the lightsaber in his side, so it's kind of like, you know, there's like a mark right through the middle of his body, and that mark on his head, like that kind of like wound looking thing on his head, and the fact that he doesn't have any other hair or anything else. And I turned my phone around and I showed them a picture of Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
And I was like, Snoke is Charlie Brown. he got so fed up not being able to kick that darn football.
Yeah.
And he turned evil. And they're like, oh my God, he does look like Snoke. And he does. Actually, if you look at a picture, that like little curly, supposed to be like a little one curly hair on his head, kind of looks like the head wound.
Oh, man, that's funny.
So Snoke is Charlie Brown.
Okay.
I'm just calling that now for episode 9. And so that's kind of exciting. I'm looking forward to it. December 2019.
Yeah.
Joss Whedon has left the Batgirl movie.
Okay.
So Joss Whedon, guy who did Avengers and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Firefly and, you know, a lot of other nerd things that we enjoy, also did some of the rewrites for Justice League. He originally was supposed to write and direct the Batgirl movie, which had a lot of people excited. He is now no longer doing that. So don't know what that means for the Batgirl movie. I don't care. I mean, superhero movies, I'm going to go see them anyway. Yeah. Apparently, unless it's Black Panther, because I still haven't seen that one yet. But, you know. All right. So my last thing actually ties into Black Panther, unless you want to say something about Batgirl?
No, we're keeping it lightning round. I'm just...
the Black Panther movie, you know the name of the country that Black Panther is from?
I do.
What is it?
It's Wauconda.
Wauconda.
Spelled with a K.
Wauconda with a K. Wakanda. Well, apparently, got this from cinemablend.com, Wauconda, Illinois is getting a lot of phone calls about Black Panther.
Yeah?
Yeah. So apparently people are prank calling the town of Wauconda, Illinois, and we live in Illinois, and Wauconda's just a few miles away, and kind of close to where you live.
I
so
lived there for when we yeah. It's like it's within running distance of my town.
Right. Well, which doesn't say much for you.
All right.
You'll run everywhere, but so apparently some people have been calling up and calling like the village hall or city offices and yelling like Wakanda forever, and which I guess is a battle cry in the movie.
Okay.
Right? And I guess they're asking about where they keep their stockpiles of vibranium and other stuff, and so yeah.
Prank calls in the modern era, that's just exciting.
Yeah.
I mean,
the fact that people are still doing prank calls.
Yeah.
Yeah. We used to do that when I wouldn't get on the bus and I would like stick around at school and then make my parents come pick me up.
Yeah.
A friend and I, there was a payphone right outside the front of our high school.
Yeah.
And he and I would just like wait out there until our parents would come, and we would prank call different companies.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember one time, I don't remember most of them, but I remember one time we prank called Kodak.
Yeah.
And he would do like a really good old man voice. And so he was on the phone. He's like, I'm at my daughter's wedding. The film is not working. I'm taking pictures. It's ruining the day. It's ruining my whole day. And he was going through this whole thing. Oh, I'm really sorry, sir. And we would just, I don't know why, but we're dumb teenagers. And
you don't have to ask why. It was prank calls.
No, it was
fun.
Yeah.
That we grew up with the Jerky Boys. I mean,
And Pee Wee's Playhouse. He was always doing.
Oh my gosh!
Is your refrigerator running? Better go and get it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
All right, so Wauconda, Illinois. So sorry, Wauconda, Illinois. They do say in the article, I thought this was a little funny, while Black Panther's Wauconda is a hidden country with vast technological advancements, Wauconda, Illinois is not quite as exciting. Rather than sitting on the world's supply of vibranium, Wauconda has a population of 13,758 people. They're thinking of having the town's offices get new phone numbers in an attempt to spare themselves for more awkward conversations.
I think you just got to go with it.
I think you got to go with
the
it.
humor.
I think you got to go with it. Yeah.
I'll make my complete comments off the air.
Oh, yeah. All right. Okay, that's it for new movie news stuff. So we can just jump on into Wings of Desire. Our movie this time is Wings of Desire. It came out on the 6th of May, 1988. Rated PG-13, has a runtime of 2 hours and 8 minutes. The director is Wim Wenders, who also did Paris, Texas, Until the End of the World. Those are two different movies, not Paris, Texas, Till the End of the World, but Paris, Texas, and Until the End of the World. Produced by Wim Wenders, who also did The End of Violence, and Anatoly Dauman, who died in 1998, who did Paris, Texas, and last year at the Marienbad. Writer was Wim Wenders, who did The State of Things and The End of Violence, and Peter Handke, who did Wrong Move. Cinematography was done by Henri Alecan, who died in 2001, who also did Roman Holiday. Music by Jürgen Nieper, I believe is how you say it, who also did December Bride and Wrong Move. The budget for this one, the only thing I could find was that it was 5 million Deutschmarks, and the box office was $3.2 million. Bruno Ganz played Damiel. He was in Luther and Unknown. Solveig Domartin, who died in 2007, played Marion. He was in Until the End of the World and Far Away So Close, which is actually the sequel to Wings of Desire. Otto Sander, who died in 2013, played Cassiel, was in Das Boot and Far Away So Close. Kurt, I think it's Bois, was Homer and was in Casablanca as a pickpocket, a young pickpocket, and was in Fortunes of Captain Blood. Peter Falk was also in this one. He died in 2011, and he was playing, oddly enough, Peter Falk. In the German credits, I believe he is credited only as Das Filmstar, but he was supposed to be playing himself as an actor. He was in The Princess Bride and Columbo. Ebert gave this movie 4 stars. Rotten Tomatoes gives this one a 98% from the critics and a 94% from audiences. In terms of awards, this one won several. It was nominated for a BAFTA award in 1989. It won Bavarian Film Awards, Blue Ribbon Awards. It won Best Director at the Cannes Film Festival, European Film Awards, so all kinds of stuff. Mostly European awards, but there are a few in there that are worldwide movie awards. So did win a few awards here and there. All right, so when I originally introduced the idea of throwing in The Unbearable Lightness of Being in Wings of Desire, I would say that the response I got from the other guys that do our podcast was less than excited.
Okay.
I don't know if it was that it was a foreign film thing or it was just I've never heard of these, therefore I'm not as interested as if it was something like Bull Durham or one of the other movies that Willow or something like that. But I want to bring a little variety to the podcast because it's just if we just do like nerdy sci-fi stuff, then that's not an indication of all the movies that came out in 1988.
We have to be
so
fair and balanced.
Fair and
Not in that sense.
Yep. So anyway, so Wings of Desire. Now, I think for both of us, it's probably the first time we've ever seen it.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And what'd you think of it? Like, overall reactions?
Well...
let me start off with this. Are you a fan of foreign films with subtitles? Because I know that can turn some people off right away.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Okay.
I mean, do I actively pursue them? No, but if someone says, hey, there's a really good movie, then check it out, then yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Definitely. The, obviously, what was the one that hit the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon? Wasn't that one of the big foreign films that hit theaters with the subtitles and everyone freaked out, even though that's not the only one. But I mean, yes, bottom line, yes. I'm just throwing a bunch of words in yes. What was the other bit? Oh, Das Boot was another big one that was fun to watch with that had the subtitles. I mean, Senna, the movie, a lot of that, they used subtitles and all that for the parts that weren't in English. So yeah, I mean, I'll watch
Star Wars, Jabba the Hutt has subtitles.
Exactly. So yeah, I'll watch foreign films with subtitles, and yeah, that's awesome. What about you?
We don't. I mean, it doesn't bother me at all because we almost put subtitles on for everything.
Yeah.
We kind of at early on, we kind of said, you know what? If we're going to watch movies and TV with the kids when they're little, we're going to put on the subtitles because we want them to kind of connect what they're seeing and hearing with the actual English or whatever words on the screen, so that it's not just a viewing thing; it's also a reading thing. So we've just kind of like, and we do that all the time. Like unless it's like the news, where sometimes the closed captioning, doesn't always match up with what they're saying, or like sports, we don't do it with sports because it just doesn't match up very well sometimes. Right. But if we're going to watch a movie, we will almost always put on the captioning. Huh. And partly we do that partly because of that reason. Like we're like, if you're going to watch TV, you're going to read something too. Mm-hmm. So we've always done that. The kids have gotten used to it. Sometimes they even think it's weird if they go to a friend's house and like they don't put on the captioning for a movie. Part of it too, then that way we don't have to turn the TV up as loud.
Right.
Like you don't have to turn it up quite as loud if you're watching a movie, and if you can see the words on the screen, then I don't need the volume to be blaring. Or, if we've got older relatives that come over and watch a movie with us, then we can put the captioning on so they can see it and whatnot. But
might jump in your bag, give that a shot, especially with the kids watching. I like that. That's cool.
And we just have gotten used to it, so it's not even like a. And in fact, I even tried a movie the other day. I was like, I'm gonna turn the captioning off. I don't want captioning on for this one. And I did, and it's something I've seen several times. But somebody said something. I'm like, wait a minute, what did they say? I didn't catch what they said. Yeah. No, I'm putting the captioning back on. Yeah. So foreign film stuff doesn't bother me at all. Yeah. And I actually did have a stretch of time in college where on the weekends, if I wasn't coming home, because I went to college about 3 hours away from home, if I wasn't coming home on the weekend, I would go to a little video store we had down in Champaign called That's for Entertainment. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's there anymore, but they had a massive section of their store it was still all VHS pretty much at that point, but massive section of their store that was foreign films, divided up by country. Mm-hmm. So I had these stretches of times where I would just go in there, and sometimes it would be like on the weekends, you could pay $1 and rent 4 movies. Mm-hmm. And I'd go in there and be like, okay, you know what, this weekend's going to be a Russia weekend. I'm going to go rent 4 Russian movies and I'm going to watch them. Or this weekend's a Japan weekend. I'm going to do that. This weekend's a French weekend. I'm going to get 4 French movies and do that. And so I would have like stretches of time where, I would go and I'd pick a particular country and I'd find, 3 or 4 movies from that country and just watch them over the course of that weekend. So I don't know that I seek them out as much now, but then it's the angels.
It is the angels.
The angels are every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
There it is.
Or in this case, gives up his wings to
yeah.
I only made that comment so I wouldn't have to edit that out later.
I think it was well played, well improvised.
The problems of recording in a school. Constant bells.
Yes.
So yeah, no, I'm a fan of the foreign film.
Kurosawa
I don't
films.
mind that. Yes.
That's the other thing I see in a bunch of. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to.
No. Yeah. But yeah, like some of the anime stuff, and because a lot of times with those two, I don't mind the dubbed version, but sometimes I'm just like, you know what, I just want to listen to it as it was originally created in the original language, and I don't know, because some of those dub performances are never quite the same as the original. So sometimes I'm more of I want to hear it in the original, give me subtitles, and then I'm good to go.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so this one, we'll get specific about this movie. What did you think watching this one for the first time?
So the subtitles didn't work on the version that I had?
And mine as well. They crapped out at about 20 minutes left to go in the movie.
Okay, so like I didn't have any subtitles.
Okay.
And
do you sprechen Sie Deutsch now?
No.
Nein.
Definitely not. Nein.
Nein.
But I'll tell you this, I read a little bit of a blurb about, it's an angel that wants to, come to Earth and give up his angelic powers and all that. And you could kind of figure it out as you were watching. It's like, oh, okay. And
you had the full artistic experience of only getting the visuals and the
and,
visuals and everything Peter Falk said.
Yes, exactly. And so it was kind of like, oh, that's cool. I like the way they used the camera work and the and that to kind of pan around to the different people, and each one seemed to have their own guardian angel. And I don't know if I read that right. Like, was there like each person had their own guardian angel, or was there just a group of angels that would just be randomly wandering around, checking out on people?
There's just a group of angels, because I do think at one point in the part that had subtitles that I got to watch, I do think there's one point where one of the angels makes a comment and says something to the effect that there's not enough of us. They're talking about something, about being able to observe, because their whole reason for being there is simply to observe.
Okay.
To observe and to kind of either just kind of watch people go through their lives and maybe like a gentle nudge here and there, because you see sometimes in the movie where, like on the subway, a guy is contemplating suicide,
right?
And the angel sits down next to him, and he's kind of like he's thinking through. He's like, "Man, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna do this." And
right.
And the angel sits down. I think like puts his hand on him,
and
then he like sits up straight, and he's like, "No, you know what? Things are gonna be okay. Things are gonna be all right."
Yeah.
But then there's that other scene where the angel comes and sits down with the guy who's sitting on the roof.
Yeah.
And like puts his head down on him. And is just listening, and the guy decides to jump anyway.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the angel screams no when that happens. And so, I think their whole thing at the beginning of the movie, when the two angels, and I constantly forget what their names are. One is supposed to be Cassiel. Let me see if I can go find it again. Head in my notes here. One is Damiel, and Marion, and Cassiel.
Yeah.
And they talk at one point when they're sitting in the car at the car dealership beginning of the movie. They're like comparing notes. They've got their notebooks with them, and one is like, I watched a child do this today, and I observed this, and I saw the flowers bloom, and so they're kind of going through, and it's not necessarily today. Sometimes they're reading something that happened 50 years ago, or they're reading. So for them, like time runs differently, and so I think it's just meant to be they're here to observe.
Okay.
And that, in particular, the reason... Well, obviously it was made by a German director, and he wanted to do a movie about his hometown.
Okay.
So he decided to set it in Berlin, and he kind of wanted this to be examining the issue of Berlin being split in half.
Okay.
Because this is still like a year or two before the Berlin Wall comes down.
Right, okay.
And you've got scenes,
with the wall.
Depict the wall. And so, I think part of it is these angels trying to observe humanity and how humanity deals with what's going on in the world. And the things that I've read about the movie, the comments they say are that it's about humanity and time, bless you,
excuse me,
and intimacy, like people talking to each other, people interacting with each other, and then to put that in the context of Berlin, where, how well can you get to know people when there's a wall straight through the center of your city? And really the split between, you've got East Berlin and West Berlin, and they are two very different cities at this point, when it's been split that way.
And that seemed to be, and that's what, so now I'm kind of like, oh, well, that's what they were talking about.
Yeah.
You could tell that they were studying something.
Yeah.
And there was much discussion going on about, well, what do you think of this? And and I could tell they were kind of helping people or just watching people or figuring it. And it was just kind of like, oh, well, we're just going to follow this person for a few minutes. Then we're going to cycle back and follow this person.
Yeah.
And some of the people were long-term. They would check back in with them. And then some, like the girl on the trapeze. And then some of the people were, well, we just watch them for a little bit, and then we shoot on to something else.
Yeah.
Now, were they jumping around in time?
No.
Or did they go to a movie set, and there were, like, Nazis? And it was a movie set.
That's what Peter Falk was there for. Was that he was there to film a movie.
Right.
So he was actually playing himself.
Right, I figured that out.
So Peter Falk was playing Peter Falk. And the idea that you get then later on in the movie is that he also was an angel.
Right, because then he's talking to the one...
Yeah, he's like, I can't see you, but I know you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did the other angels know? Because they were kind of like shocked.
I don't think that they knew.
Okay.
You kind of get the idea that these angels can jump around in time, and they can jump around to different places, and they can observe, and they can take their notes and everything. But you also get the idea that they're not supposed to be omniscient.
Okay.
That they're not, they don't know everything, and they don't, so they run into somebody who used to be an angel, but they don't realize it.
Right.
Until the guy says, in no certain terms, I was an angel, like I was one of you.
Okay.
And I gave it up. And,
well, yeah, because when the one guy comes to Earth, and then things are in color. He's having a conversation with Peter Falk like they're old buddies.
Right.
Okay.
And that was kind of the black and white versus color thing. Was the black and white was supposed to be, this is how the angels see the world.
Yeah.
And then the color was, here's how the humans see the world.
Yeah. Cool.
Which is kind of interesting because you would think that somebody like a creature like an angel would have a different perspective, and you'd think that would be, I think a lot of times we associate color with I'm getting the full picture when I see things in color, versus when I see it in black and white, I'm not. There's certain things that I'm missing. But I was listening to a commentary from the director, and part of the commentary that was on the copy of the movie that we had, and he actually said, you know what, when we started filming scenes in color, it just didn't have as much of an impact on me. For me, the black and white was where it was beautiful, and that's where it was, that's where things looked best when we were filming, and then we had to go to color, and so for him, actually the human world, the color world, was less interesting than the black and white angel world.
Right.
But that was supposed to be the idea, was that this one angel, he's been observing, and he's been, going around and seeing humanity and everything else, and that he, through listening to the thoughts of the trapeze artist, like he makes a connection to, he wants to experience more about this thing that is human beauty and human existence, and that they can observe all these things, but they don't feel any of it. Like they can smile, they can laugh, whatever, but it's not the same as when we smile or when we laugh or whatever it might be. Which is, I'll tie this into the movie that came out in, I think it was 98, The City of Angels. It was a Nicolas Cage, Meg Ryan movie, and it was meant to be more of like a romantic movie.
Right.
Like, movie you'd take your wife or girlfriend on a date to. And the idea with that one was Meg Ryan was a doctor. She was a surgeon, and takes place in Los Angeles, the City of Angels. And it's Nicolas Cage is the angel, and it's the same thing. They do observing, they go around, and if somebody's been in an accident, the same kind of scenes, like the guy was in the motorcycle accident, the same kind of thing. Might be a motorcycle accident, and then it's time for that person's soul to go along, so then the angels kind of help usher their soul out from their body. So he actually spends some time in the hospital because she's a surgeon, and he sees her like trying to save people. And so he kind of, at first he just admires that, but as he spends more time around her, and as he's taking, when people die in the hospital, he's taking their souls and helping them along their way, he starts to kind of fall in love with her a little bit. And so for him, in that movie, it's a little bit more of I'm falling in love with this human, therefore that's why I want to be human. Whereas I think in the German movie, it was more of another angel has either given up or gotten their wings.
Well, let's be positive today, John.
Attaboy, Clarence.
There we go.
That's a very dear friend of mine. So in the German one, it's more of I've fallen in love with humanity.
Right.
And the beauty that's in the world, and I want to experience that, whereas the Nicolas Cage one was, I want to get with this lady.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing.
Well, Hollywood, you got to.
Yeah. Now, the thing that I always thought was kind of cool in the City of Angels one, because I saw that one first. Like this one, Wings of Desire, I just saw this like a few days ago.
Right.
First time I'd ever seen it. In fact, stupid me, when I picked this movie for our list, and then I started to read about it a few weeks ago, I was like, oh, hey, you know what? That's remarkably similar to City of Angels. And then stupid me, as I'm reading more and more, I find out, oh, it's the same screenplay. All right. Great. Nice job, John. Way to go.
Good. I'm
glad
way
to be knowledgeable there.
I'm glad we made those connections.
Yeah. So, and in the City of Angels one, too, they have a scene, and that's one of the parts that I thought was always kind of interesting, and probably why my wife liked that movie, too, because she's a librarian, is the scenes that take place in the library.
Okay.
And that's where it seems to be that the angels like to hang out.
Yeah.
Because since they can only experience what they observe.
Right.
So they go to the library, like they can't, I don't think they can read books themselves, or they just don't have the experience of reading the breadth of human knowledge themselves. So they go to the library and they listen to people reading books, and kind of by hearing those books being read through the different voices of the people that are there, like that's almost like their favorite place to congregate.
Got it.
Is the library. And so you have several scenes in the City of Angels where they go to a library as well, and that's kind of where they're hanging out.
Yeah.
But one of the things I thought was kind of interesting for this and you would have missed it if without having the subtitles, was they're listening to somebody read a section of the Bible in the library. Okay. And there's a line that they pull from a verse in Genesis about the world being in chaos, like before the world was created and formed and everything else, that the world was in chaos. And I kind of felt like that, okay, well, that's kind of like, I think that's them talking about, like, here's Berlin. Berlin is a city in chaos, and yet the director loves this city because it's his hometown, and despite all the crap that's going on with it, he wants to show how beautiful it is. So, yeah, no, I like this movie. I've never been to Berlin, but I have been, like, in the early to mid 90s. We went to Munich. A couple other places. When we lived over in England for a while, we'd go to, like, Munich, and we'd go to Paris, and we'd go to some cities every now and then. We'd do, like, a little weekend trip or something. And Germany's just a fun place. It's a fun place to go. But I've never been to Berlin. I'd love to go to Berlin and see it. But it's always kind of been interesting to me, the whole idea of a city being just split in two by the wall and everything that happened at the end of the Second World War. And
it just seems so foreign now, or different. Not foreign, but I mean, it just seems so different and long ago. And like, our kids, that wouldn't have even been a thing. But I mean, I remember growing up looking at maps of two different Germanys and two different Berlins, two different halves of Berlin.
And I remember watching the videos when the wall came down.
Yeah, I mean, So no, I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine that. As you were saying that, I was kind of lost in thought, and obviously our country is pretty polarized right now. But is that the same? I don't know if that's the same or if it's not the same, but you had two different, I'd say, people, but even the people coexisted not with the same outlook, because one was a very restrictive, Soviet communist authoritarian regime, and then one of them was more Western and free and all that. It wasn't like the people necessarily had, well, the people did have ideological differences, but it was imposed by the governments as opposed to the, so I don't know, that's not something I could ever imagine.
Yeah. Did you ever see, there was the movie that came out, and it was supposed to be the time of the fall of the Berlin Wall, was that Atomic Blonde? It came out last year. Did you ever watch that?
It came out last year.
Yeah.
You were pretty high on it.
I liked it.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good. I mean, Charlize Theron, so
there it is.
I'm going to go see pretty much anything. It's Mad Max Fury Road, Atomic Blonde. I don't really care. I'm going to go see it.
Yeah.
But that was a good one, too, and that was kind of like she would, as a spy. There they are again.
The Angels.
Good job, Angels.
The Angels smile upon us.
Good job, Angels. They like our podcast. Special guest. We've had
Angels.
3 of them, and I think there were 3 Angels featured in this movie. So
see what the reviews are, man. Maybe we'll get some angelic reviews.
We're gonna get some 6-star reviews.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, in that movie, she kind of has to go back and forth between the 2 different sides of Berlin.
Okay.
As part of her spying that she's doing. But yeah, for this movie in particular, it was very slow.
Yes.
And I think done so on purpose.
Yeah.
Because from what I could tell, things were very slow when they were focusing on the Angels. But then when it got to the point where he was human and everything went to color, then it kind of moved pretty quickly at that point. It's like, we're moving at a pretty quick pace here. And I think that was on purpose. I think that was to show that, hey, we're Angels. We're here forever. I'm not in any hurry.
Yeah.
And a lot of it seemed repetitive. They're almost very poetically talking about the sun and people living and people dying and going about their business and the old man commenting on the war and having some of those flashbacks to images from the war and it seemed very slow and very repetitive, and I was okay with that. It didn't bother me too much about it. I mean, if I was in a big hurry, I guess I would have been bothered more, but I think that was supposed to show us that the Angels they're going to be around for a while, so they're not in any rush.
Right.
They're not in any hurry. They're just observers. They just and everything to them is interesting. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say everything to them is beautiful, because I don't think they can feel that until they decide to become human. But at least to them, everything is noteworthy, because they seem to take notes about things that are, either big events or totally trivial.
Right.
The war happened, and Susie Johnson trimmed her toenails.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Exactly.
It's like, wow, those are both really interesting.
Yeah.
For them, it's like a different perspective, but yeah. So it's kind of so anybody thinking of going to see this movie or renting this movie, it gets critically, it gets very high praise.
Yeah.
But it definitely is. It's definitely a very artistic movie, and it's very visual, but it's also very slow, and I think slow on purpose. So if you don't like that, maybe.
Yeah, and
maybe realize that going into it.
The speed was slow. Didn't mind it. I'm going to echo all your thoughts. I don't think I've used this phrase on the podcast before. This one, I'd say, if I'm in the mood for it, I think I'd really enjoy it. Which, for me, I'm always like, why would you use that phrase? Like, yeah, am I in the mood for Star Wars or Star Trek? Am I in the mood for action or fantasy? Yeah, you got to be in the mood for anything. No, but this is a movie like, yeah, I don't know if I'm in the mood for this movie or not. Or, yeah, you know what, I just want to think. I just want to see something artistic, and I might be in the mood for it. So, yeah, if you're in the mood to just kind of observe human behavior, then this is the movie for it.
Yeah. So what I'm going to say next will spoil City of Angels. So if you haven't seen that and you want to stop here and go see it, you can. Where that kind of departs a little bit is I'm going to forget his name. The cop on NYPD Blue. You ever watch that?
Yeah.
Sipowicz.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what the actor's name was. I knew I was going to blank out on it as soon as I.
Yeah.
Anyway, he is actually the Peter Falk character in the City of Angels.
Oh, okay.
So he is like, I don't know if they go to, I'm trying to remember, Dennis Franz.
Okay.
Is his name. And they go to, I feel like they go to his house at some point, and he starts talking to the Nicolas Cage angel, and he's like, hey, you know what? I'm like having to breathe through a tube, and I'm on like a oxygen mask and other stuff. And he's like, and I got high cholesterol, and I got all this other stuff, but and I'm probably gonna die any time now. But I tell you what, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And so like that's kind of the conversation that starts to push Nicolas Cage over the edge towards I want to become
a human.
Yeah. And the thing about the end of that movie, so I'm going to ruin it for you if you are planning on seeing it with Tammy anytime soon. Or,
you know who you're talking to, right?
I know who you're talking to. So
not to say I'm judging the movie.
No.
Before I've seen it.
Oh, yeah. That he and Meg Ryan finally, they get together once he becomes human, and they get together in more than just that way.
Right.
And then she is like the next morning, I think they're like out in a cabin in the woods somewhere, and she is like real big about riding her bike everywhere. And so she's like so happy that she's fallen in love with this man that she loves, and
I think I've heard of this.
And she goes like riding down the road on this mountain, and like a giant logging truck comes around the corner, and you all of a sudden the next thing you see is like logs falling off the truck, and and you find out that she dies. And so now his whole purpose for becoming a human, she's now dead. And so he has to go through, he can't go back to being an angel, so he's now stuck in human life without the reason that he became an angel for in the first place. So that's where, after watching this movie, maybe after being a little bit older, because I saw that in high school, and enjoyed that movie. There were people online, when I started to look stuff up about City of Angels, they're like, oh my god, it's the worst movie ever. It sucks. It's not even a good love story. And Nicolas Cage is horrible, and Meg Ryan's horrible, and I'm like, okay, hold on.
These people are where?
They're on the internet. They don't actually exist in the real world. They're just part of the Matrix that are there to annoy us. But I enjoy the movie. I'll go watch the movie every now and then. But I think being a little bit older and then watching this movie, I look at it and I go, you know what? I actually kind of like the ending of Wings of Desire a little bit better. Because for Nicolas Cage, then it's just sad. Because the whole reason you did this was because you fell in love with a woman, and now she's gone, and now you're stuck there. And you don't really even have a whole lot of memories that you can hold on to. And so I don't remember the very end of the movie, but he's just kind of sad.
Mm-hmm.
And the end of this one is more of he was in love with that trapeze art, or he had kind of fallen in love with that trapeze artist, and then he goes to confront her and meets her in the bar there after the Nick Cave concert, and he's trying to talk to her about how he loves her, and she's talking about how she's in love, but you come to find out she's in love with another guy. So, and he had not read that in her thoughts at any point, so it's kind of like, oh, okay. But then he goes off to live the rest of his human life, and I think because he was more in love with humanity and feeling and beauty and things like that it was more of a, okay, now you didn't just tie your existence to one person, therefore your life is going to be okay, because there's all kinds of beautiful things you can go take a look at.
The movie is more nuanced, it's deeper, it's a little bit more, it's got a worldview to it.
Right.
Whereas, nothing against the movie that I have not seen, City of Angels, with that, but that maybe is more like, okay, we're going to adapt the screenplay, but what are we going to do? We got to do a love story, and it's got to be about loss,
right?
Because we got to have a twist ending. It's got to be dramatic. Got to make people cry,
right? We got to kill Meg Ryan,
and so you kind of dumb it down a little bit, because they're trying to fit a mold.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to judge a movie. I couldn't do any different. I'm not a writer. Sorry, everybody mowing the lawn. But that just was based on what you've said and what I saw with the other one. It's just like they aren't going to do this big, deep philosophical one. They need to go for that immediate punch of fall in love. You make the sacrifice. Oh, they lost it. Not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't know that I have too much else to say about Wings of Desire. I mean, it was an enjoyable movie.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, it was a good movie, and you didn't even know what they were saying. So
I didn't know what they were saying, but I mean, I think
it'd be kind of like, which goes to show, you could make a movie entirely made up of Wookiees, and it could still be enjoyable.
Well, I speak Wookiee, so
I know you do.
But other people. Other people.
But we don't. Chewbacca has no subtitles, so
Chewbacca doesn't need subtitles.
And R2 doesn't have them either, which I think makes them funnier.
I know. Hey, Ocean's 11, right? They're the Grease Man,
right?
Yeah. They never put subtitles in for him,
right?
So
the movie Snatch.
Yes.
If there were subtitles in that, it wouldn't be as funny.
It would not be as funny. Dennis, actually, when I was talking to Dennis, I was today, and I said, "Yeah, we're going to go record a podcast," and he goes, "Oh, really? Which one?"
I didn't offer food, so
I didn't say, well, check back your texts or any of that kind of stuff. But I said, oh, Wings of Desire. Wait, Wings of Desire. And he goes, oh yeah, good movie. Or he responded in the affirmative.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think this would be a movie that Dennis would love. I could really see just the way he thinks of things and considers things, and even just observes.
Well, the cinematography of it and all that stuff.
But even Dennis is, he's got Dennis has a philosophical outlook on humanity and all that kind of stuff. So I think he would really like this movie.
Yeah.
And give cause for thought and discussion, and that's what the movie really does. It just initiates that thought and discussion, and even without the subtitles, you kind of can figure out what's going on,
right?
And the subtitles just kind of fill in those, fill in the gaps.
Last funny thing, actually a funny story related to this that I will tell, because I was listening to the part of the commentary for it, and apparently one of the scene where he becomes human, where they're standing next to the wall, and apparently they weren't allowed to film next to the actual wall, so they had to build segments of the wall.
Right.
But apparently in the no man's land area, kind of like from where they were building the wall and the fake wall, apparently it was kind of this open area of just like brush and grass and other stuff. Apparently there's tons of rabbits that live in that kind of area near the wall. Wabbits, lots of wabbits, wascally wabbits. Wascally wabbits in a movie by Wim Wenders. If I didn't do it as Wim Wenders, the director's name.
Yeah.
So wascally wabbits. And apparently while they were filming, they couldn't get rid of the rabbits because there were just too many around.
Yeah.
And so they said they had this very dramatic scene of him saying, I want to become a human. And then you see him kind of like faint, and then the other angels holding him there.
Yeah.
They said if you take a look in the background, there are rabbits humping all over the place. And they said it was very difficult to film some of the scenes because he would be trying to do his like dramatic monologue about how I want to become a human and everything else. And all the camera crew and the director and everybody else are like looking over at these rabbits that are going at it.
Yeah.
And he's like, guys, I'm trying to do my part here. But they said like that was one of the most distracting scenes that they were trying to, it was like, I'm trying to do something serious here.
Yeah.
But there's a whole bunch of rabbits going at it all around us.
Luckily they didn't have Christian Bale.
We're done professionally.
Yeah.
And so are they.
That's funny. How about, and I know we're trying to do the wrap up, but I'm just thinking back those scenes, where he makes that call and he collapses. And at the beginning when he's standing on the roof and then the kid is looking up, but it's like a gargoyle.
Yeah.
And then like the kid can see him.
Yeah.
So it's like, well,
you get the idea that like kids and animals.
Yeah.
And especially what I liked about that was it seemed like a lot of the kids who could really clearly see the angels were kids who were either maybe special needs kids or injured in some way, or you think of, I don't like to use the word weakest, but like maybe like the weakest members of society are the ones who can so clearly see these angels.
Yeah.
And like it's almost like, that they have a higher connection to the...
So cycling back to the Casablanca discussion of, not hitting over the head with special effects, because if you want something to be a special effect, you gotta do it.
Right.
Like in this movie, it was the same thing. Oh, well, that's a really cool effect. Who can see what? And they didn't have any kind of like crazy CGI stuff and all. It was just the way they did the cameras, the way they did the kids, the way they, I just thought that was cool.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and that cinematography at the beginning of the movie where you have them like flying around and you see the stuff from the bird's eye view. And, yeah.
Cool stuff.
Last thing I will mention, not even related to the movie, but related to the Berlin Wall and Berlin at this time, because it made me think of it, so I went back and I watched it. I think the entire thing is on YouTube. In 1987, David Bowie spent a whole bunch of years. I think he had 3 albums that he wrote while he was living in Berlin. He stayed there for a while and did a lot of his writing, and learned a lot of this from reading David Bowie stuff and going to the David Bowie Museum exhibit that was at the Modern Art Museum in Chicago a couple of years ago.
Cool.
Very, very cool stuff. And he apparently had a concert in '87, and I remembered hearing about this, and I found it on YouTube. And I'll put a link in our show notes if anybody wants to see it. They did a concert near the Berlin Wall in '87, and obviously he was on the western side of it. But apparently people on the East Berlin side heard that he was going to be doing a concert, and so they all crowded as close to the wall as they could so that they could hear his concert. And he made a comment and said, you know what, I actually had it. I had it pulled up a minute ago. He made a comment and he said, I'll never forget that. It was one of the most emotional performances I've ever done. I was in tears. They backed up the stage to the wall itself, so the wall was acting as our backdrop. We kind of heard that a few of the East Berliners might actually get the chance to hear the thing, but we didn't realize in what numbers they would. And there were thousands on the other side that had come close to the wall, so it was like a double concert where the wall was the division. And we'd hear them cheering and singing along from the other side. God, even now I get choked up. It was breaking my heart. I'd never done anything like that in my life, and I guess I never will again. When we did the song Heroes, it felt really anthemic, almost like a prayer. However well we do it these days, it's almost like walking through it compared to that night because it meant so much more.
Yeah.
So that was very cool. And I remember hearing about that, and I rember watching that video a while back.
Cool.
But this movie and thinking about the Berlin Wall and all that other stuff made me think about David Bowie and his and his concert that he did there. I remember hearing about that you just have these people that are oppressed and they want so much to be a part of a unified city and all that. So. All right, well, I think that's going to do it. I think we got it. That's going to do it for our episode on Wings of Desire. We might try to circle back and do the Unbearable Lightness of Being at some point. If we don't, I think we're probably going to be okay. But John's going to be totally disappointed that the rest of us didn't get to watch the movie.
Yeah.
with the lady with no shirt on. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, go to 30podcast.com. That's the way that you can get in touch with us. We got a voicemail line, email, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, probably some social media stuff that hasn't even been invented yet. We're on it somewhere. I don't know. It's 30 Podcast. We're on there.
Make it happen.
Make it happen. So if you like this movie or totally hate this movie, whichever way, feel free to give us a call on our voicemail line, let us know, or email, tweet at us, all that other stuff. But I don't know exactly what our next episode will be. I know that we're hoping to get a Black Panther thing done here, so hopefully that one we will have coming up very, very soon. Otherwise, I think coming up over the course of the next few weeks or so, well, because we're kind of at the end of February. So next up will be our March month, and the 4 movies that we have set aside for March. We're going to do some other episodes in between those, but the 4 movies we've got are Big, Twins, Willow, and Child's Play.
Oh,
so it's our big and small month. So yeah. So if you want to talk Willow, you gotta watch Child's Play. I'm sorry.
Well, we'll see what happens.
It'll be okay. You made it through Nightmare on Elm Street, so mostly. They come out at night, mostly.
I got nothing.
You got all right. Well, thank you, Pat.
Thank you, John. This is fun.
Yeah. All right. In the meantime, be excellent to each other and go watch some good movies.
Some good movies.
All right. See you all next time.